Hi, welcome to Route 66. We're on day number 83 of reading through the Bible, this journey through the Bible. We've got a couple of chapters today in the book of Judges. Let's see, it's 18 and 19 we're reading, just two chapters. And I'll tell you what, these are some chapters that the Bible should have been rated R, could have been rated X, just depending how they did. It's just crazy what some of the things. And when you read this, you're going to say, what in the world? These were God's people? Yes, they were. It shows how far away we can get from God. And so let's go ahead and kick it off with Judges chapter 18. Yesterday, we met a guy by the name of Micah. If you recall Micah stole silver from his mom, made an idol, and had this little, I don't know what it was, must have been some worship thing where he worshiped false gods within his own home. Well, anyway, the Dan of tribe, which was down in the south, inside Judah, they didn't like where they were at, so they didn't claim their land, so they wanted to go far, far away. So they went way up north, and they found a new territory. They found a peaceful city named Laish, and they decided to conquer it. On their way, they stole Micah's idols and convinced this Levite priest that he had to serve them as a group rather than an individual as a person. And so now Micah doesn't have an idol, and he doesn't have a Levitical priest. And they attacked Laish, completely obliterated it, renamed it Dan, and established idol worship there as a group. Crazy. And then in Judges chapter 19, we get probably one of the more horrible events that happened. There was a Levite. Now, Levites, we need to realize, Levites were part of the group, the family that were supposed to be the priests. They were descendants of Levi. Aaron and Moses, they were all descendants of Levi. They were all the priests. Well, since they didn't have a priesthood really at that time, they were looked on very well. But there was a Levite that was returning to get his concubine, which is a live-in woman. And so he got her and was bringing her back, ended up staying overnight in a town called Gibeah. That night, the men of the city were going to attack him. They were going to attack, and they ended up attacking her and raped her through the night and left her for dead, and probably she did die. And the Levite was so mad that he dismembered her and sent pieces of her body to the rest of the group of Israel, crying out for justice. Crazy, isn't it? We're going to find out what happens with that tomorrow in the reading tomorrow, but we're just prepping it now. So what are some lessons that we can learn? No positive lessons from Judges chapter 18 we can learn with Micah and Dan. When we ignore God's guidance and we decide to take some shortcuts in doing some things, we can fall into compromise and idolatry. When you do things God's way, it may take longer, it may not be easier, but Dan should have stayed where God put them. Micah should have worshiped God the way God said. But when they start doing things the way they think they ought to, again, the theme of Judges is the last verse of it. Everyone did that which is right in their own eyes. If it feels good, do it. Not a good thing. Do what God says. And then in chapter 19, we find out when a whole society abandons God, it gets bad. The Bible, Jesus said that we're the salt of the earth. And one of the things that salt does is it prevents decay of food. And that's why they would put salt on pork and salt on meat and salt on fish, is to keep it from spoiling. And when there's Christians, when there's a godly society, God can do some amazing things. But you pull God away from a society, you kick God out of your society, and it gets messed up. That's why some of our society is so messed up. That's why segments of our society is so messed up. That's why sometimes school systems are so messed up. It's because we've kicked God out. We don't want him in there. And God says, okay, then let's see what happens. And it gets worse. When you bring God in, it gets better. Without God's standards, selfishness goes unrestrained. Evil goes horribly. We see what happened with this one. It's the same in any society. Keep God where he needs to be. Don't abandon God as a society and as a community. says a lot for our day and time, isn't it? So God bless you as you're reading. It's going to get better. We'll get through Judges, and we're going to find out about Samuel. That's coming up in 1st and 2nd Samuel. Ruth and